When someone disappears, fear fills the silence quickly. In moments like that, stories begin to multiply, some rooted in fact, others fueled by imagination. Over the past few days, speculation surrounding Nancy Guthrie has grown louder, painting dramatic pictures of secret identities and hidden romances. But before we lean into narratives that turn grief into spectacle, it's worth pausing. An 84-year-old woman went missing from her Tucson home. A family was thrown into shock. Her daughter, Savannah Guthrie, known to millions through today, suddenly found herself living the kind of story she usually reports on. That alone is heavy enough. The temptation to explain tragedy with elaborate double lives may be strong, but real life is often quieter and more complicated than the theories suggest. The reality behind public perception. Nancy was widely described as steady, faith-filled, and resilient, especially after losing her husband in 1989. Widowed at 47, she raised 3 teenagers in Tucson with determination and grace. Friends remember church potlucks, school volunteering, and a home that felt safe even in seasons of uncertainty. That image of stability isn't necessarily false just because it's incomplete. Every human being contains multitudes. A person can be devoted to family and still carry private longings. They can be strong and still feel lonely. Suggesting that any undisclosed relationship or independent pursuit automatically amounts to a secret double life oversimplifies the emotional complexity of widowhood, aging, and identity. It risks turning ordinary human privacy into something suspicious, when in reality, many people quietly nurture passions, friendships, or creative outlets outside their family's full awareness. The envelope and the questions. It raised reports of an anonymous envelope containing an old photograph have fueled intense online speculation. A younger Nancy standing beside an unidentified man in Santa Fe. A handwritten note urging someone to ask about Elena. On the surface, it reads like a mystery novel. But photographs capture moments, not motives. A picture from 1992 doesn't automatically confirm decades of deception or criminal entanglement. It confirms only that Nancy lived a life before and after widowhood that included travel, friendships, and perhaps relationships not widely discussed. For investigators, such material might represent a lead to verify. For the public, however, it should remain just that, a piece of context, not proof of wrongdoing or evidence of an elaborate hidden identity. Grief should not become entertainment, and unanswered questions should not become accusations. The human side of privacy. Widowhood changes a person. Many who lose spouses in midlife eventually form new bonds. Some remarry openly. Others choose companionship without ceremony. Some keep relationships quiet out of respect for children still mourning. None of those choices inherently indicate deceit or danger. If Nancy formed a meaningful connection in Santa Fe years after her husband's death, that would not erase her devotion to her family. It would simply reveal her humanity. Aging adults are often denied complexity in public narratives, cast only as caregivers or matriarchs. Yet they continue to seek joy, creativity, and companionship. Privacy around those pursuits does not automatically equal a double life. Sometimes it reflects generational norms about discretion, particularly among women who came of age in the 1950s and 1960s, when personal matters were rarely discussed outside trusted circles. Investigations rely on evidence, not assumptions. Law enforcement agencies approach disappearances methodically. They review phone records, financial transactions, travel history, and witness statements. If Nancy had ties to Santa Fe, investigators would examine them carefully. But connecting a disappearance to romantic intrigue or secret finances without verified proof can distract from the central goal: finding answers grounded in fact. Blackmail, jealousy, gallery rivalries, these are dramatic possibilities often floated online, yet they require evidence. Responsible coverage avoids jumping from possibility to conclusion. Families navigating trauma deserve diligence, not amplification of rumor. Every speculative headline adds another layer of pressure to people already enduring uncertainty. In high-profile cases involving public figures, the balance between public curiosity and private pain becomes even more delicate. Savannah at the center of the storm. For Savannah, the collision between public role and personal crisis is profound. She has spent years interviewing others during their hardest moments, asking careful questions while maintaining composure. Now she stands on the opposite side of that dynamic. Whether or not her mother had private relationships or creative pursuits, Savannah's grief is real. If new information surfaces about her mother's past, it may reshape how she understands certain memories, but it does not erase the love she received growing up. Adult children often discover surprising chapters in their parents' histories. That process can feel destabilizing, yet it can also lead to deeper compassion. Recognizing that a parent had dreams, fears, and secrets does not diminish their role as caregiver. It expands it. The danger of turning grief into drama. In the digital age, audiences are quick to dissect mystery. Social media threads spin theories within hours. Words like double life trend easily because they promise intrigue. But real families pay the emotional cost of those labels. When speculation frames Nancy as living under an alias or maintaining hidden bank accounts for dramatic effect, it risks flattening her into a character rather than honoring her as a person. The line between curiosity and sensationalism can blur quickly. Ethical storytelling requires restraint, especially when facts are still unfolding. There is room to ask questions and seek clarity without constructing elaborate narratives that may never reflect reality. Compassion does not diminish truth, it strengthens it. Complexity without villainy. If Nancy had artistic interests in Santa Fe or maintained friendships there, those elements add texture to her life story. They do not automatically signal betrayal or criminal entanglement. Humans often compartmentalize, not to deceive, but to protect emotional balance. A widow raising children might hesitate to introduce a new partner for fear of unsettling fragile stability. She might invest modest sums in creative projects as a way to reclaim identity beyond motherhood. These choices can coexist with devotion. Labeling them as a web of deception imposes moral judgment where nuance may be more appropriate. The absence of forced entry or robbery in a disappearance investigation is a law enforcement puzzle, not proof of romantic intrigue. Correlation should never be mistaken for causation. Holding space for uncertainty. Right now, what remains certain is uncertainty. Questions linger about what happened in the Catalina foothills. Investigators continue their work. Friends and neighbors hope for clarity. In that space between not knowing and finding out, it is tempting to fill the void with narrative. But sometimes the most responsible response is patience. A life can be rich, layered, and occasionally private without being scandalous. A mother can be both steadfast and searching. A public figure can be grieving while the world speculates. Allowing room for that complexity honors everyone involved. Until verified details emerge, restraint protects both truth and dignity. Remembering the person, not the plot. Whether Nancy's story ultimately reveals hidden romance, misunderstood travel, or something entirely different, it should not eclipse her decades of love and commitment. People are more than their secrets and more than the mysteries that surround them. As Savannah and her family navigate this painful chapter, what they need most is support, not dramatization. The real story here is not about aliases or envelopes. It is about a family confronting uncertainty, about the fragile intersection of privacy and publicity, and about how quickly grief can become headline fodder. In honoring Nancy, we honor the fullness of a human life, complex, imperfect, and deserving of care rather than conspiracy.